Hello everyone, my name is John. Welcome to the Map 30 Challenge channel. Now, it just blows my mind how the mega food industries manipulate the science and the scale at which they're getting caught doing it. And yet and still, they continue to try it. Today is no different, other than the fact that it's just so far out of bounds that you have to see it for yourself to believe it. You don't want to miss this video, so let's just get into it. What if I told you the biggest problem with the meat industry isn't the health concerns you hear about? It's the science itself? We've been looking at this story completely backwards. A 2025 systematic review of 44 clinical trials uncovered a pattern that defies coincidence. Every single industry-linked study reported favorable or neutral cardiovascular outcomes, while not one independent trial reported favorable results. That's a perfect split, 100% on each side. Though the review rated overall evidence quality as low and focused on short-term risk markers rather than long-term disease, this funding pattern reveals something profound about how science gets shaped by money. But here's the twist that changes everything. The real scandal isn't just that funding influences research outcomes. It's that this decades-long pattern has backfired, successfully hiding the genuine nutritional benefits of quality meat while defending highly processed products that bear little resemblance to real food. The industry's systematic defense of everything has made even legitimate nutrition science look suspect. Let's be absolutely clear from the start, because this is the crucial point the entire debate misses. High-quality, minimally processed meat is genuinely nutrient-dense. Animal protein played an important role in human evolution, providing bioavailable protein, heme-iron your body can actually use, B12, zinc, and other essential nutrients. This isn't industry propaganda, this is established nutritional science. But contemporary health impacts depend critically on amount, processing method, and overall dietary context. For decades, we've been presented with two parallel versions of meat science. Independent researchers at universities and public health institutions ask, what is the real relationship between this food and human health? Industry-funded research, meanwhile, is designed around a different question. How can we generate data that protects sales of all our products regardless of quality or processing? And the industry has become so effective at the second approach that it has systematically damaged the credibility of nutrition science itself. So how does an industry achieve a perfect record of favorable or neutral results across 44 trials? They don't typically fabricate data that's too risky and too detectable. Instead, they've mastered something more subtle: strategic control over study design before the first measurement is even taken. The 2025 review found that industry-linked trials more often use comparators that make red meat look better, comparing it to other animal proteins or similar dietary patterns. Independent trials, by contrast, compared meat to plant-centric diets. This design choice fundamentally shapes what the study can discover. It's not fraud, it's strategic framing that produces systematically different results. Here's how this works in practice. An independent study might ask, what are the cardiovascular effects of eating processed sausage? And compare people eating sausage to people following a Mediterranean diet rich in fish, vegetables, and whole grains. That reveals something meaningful about the product's health impact. But an industry-influenced study might compare the same sausage to a diet containing other processed meats or refined foods. The sausage doesn't look worse in that comparison. You're measuring one product against similarly processed alternatives. The methodology may be technically sound, the statistics may be correctly calculated, but the question has been carefully constructed to generate a predetermined type of answer. This leads to the greatest irony of the entire situation. In their relentless pursuit to defend every product they sell, from ultra-processed hot dogs to high-quality grass-fed steaks, the industry has taken genuinely nutritious food and made the entire category appear untrustworthy. When 100% of industry-funded trials produce favorable or neutral results with zero acknowledging concerns, while independent research from respected institutions shows a more complex picture, who does the public eventually doubt? They start doubting all of it. It sounds counterintuitive, but the meat industry's obsession with protecting all products, they ignore the science that shows the benefits of a good quality meat. So while they were manipulating trials to try to prove that processed meats was natural, they completely missed the boat on the fact that meta-analysis show that grass-fed beef has up to 300% more conjugated linoleic acid and significantly more omega-3s than grain-fed alternatives. But because they can't scale high-quality pasture-raised meat to feed a global fast food machine, they just stayed silent on these benefits. They've basically lobotomized nutritional science so that you won't realize that the cheap meat is a nutritional shadow of real grass-fed beef. Beef that is raised out in the open where they're feeding off the land and not raised in a feed lot, in a spot the size of a parking space in a parking lot, and fed grains all their life so that they get fatter, faster, slaughtered out the door and in your supermarket. But the quality is nowhere near that of a real grass-fed beef. They just don't want you to know that. The industry's own funding pattern has been so consistent, so obvious that it has cast suspicion over the very real nutritional value of quality, minimally processed meat. To be clear, independent research does show weak to moderate associations between unprocessed red meat and certain health risks, far weaker and less consistent than the strong, well-established evidence against processed meat. The World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classified processed meat as Group 1 carcinogenic to humans, while unprocessed red meat is Group 2A, probably carcinogenic with substantially weaker evidence. The problem isn't that unprocessed meat is inherently dangerous at moderate intake levels. The issue is that industry-funded research systematically minimizes even modest associations through strategic study design, creating an implausibly perfect picture that damages scientific credibility. So what does unbiased science actually tell us? The answer isn't a simple yes or no to meat. The real answer requires asking what kind and how much. Independent research consistently highlights scientifically significant differences between grass-fed versus grain-fed animals. Meta-analyses show grass-fed beef often has substantially higher conjugated linoleic acid and modestly higher omega-3 levels than grain-fed beef, though exact ratios vary by cut and season. Fresh, minimally processed cuts versus products loaded with sodium nitrites, nitrates, and preservatives. The health evidence diverges dramatically between these categories. Moderate consumption within a whole foods dietary pattern versus high consumption alongside ultra-processed foods and refined carbohydrates. Now, here's a little detail that the processed food industry would like to keep buried. The World Health Organization finds a massive gap between the science of an actual piece of beef in your fridge and the deli meat over the counter at your local supermarket. Processed meat is officially a Group 1 carcinogen, which puts it in the same category, get this, as asbestos and tobacco. But the red meat that's in your fridge, it's a Group 2A, meaning that the evidence linking it to any disease is substantially low. But here's what they'll do. They'll fund studies that will lump all meat into the same category and use the low risk of a steak to hide the high risk of a Slim Jim or a piece of lunch meat at the deli. And they can do that by lumping it all together. It's almost laughable. It's about the equivalent of me making a study that compares apples to apple-flavored candy and say that the evidence proves that apple-flavored candy is nutritional because of the apple. That's essentially what they're doing. And it is a lie. So they are defending your food or your health. They're using a high-quality piece of meat to hide foods with ultra-processed chemicals. That's what they're doing. The industry has massive financial incentive to blur these distinctions under the single banner of meat. This strategic ambiguity allows them to use positive findings about grass-fed beef to defend highly processed products. But your body recognizes the difference, and honest science confirms it. This leaves you, the consumer, navigating genuine confusion. But the path forward is clearer than the noise suggests. First, learn to recognize extreme positions from both sides. The industry's implicit claim that all meat products are equally healthy is scientifically misleading, as is the ideological argument that all meat consumption is harmful. Both oversimplify complex evidence to sell you either products or ideology. Second, and most important, prioritize quality and minimally processed options over any single study headline. Focus on what your great-grandparents would recognize as food: grass-fed and finished beef, pasture-raised pork and chicken, wild-caught fish. Avoid products requiring ingredient labels longer than a traditional recipe. This is the context in which meat supported human health and development. Third, when you encounter headlines claiming meat is either perfectly safe or universally dangerous, ask one critical question: who funded the research? That single question cuts through more confusion than any individual study result ever could. The meat industry's greatest deception wasn't any specific health claim. It was convincing you that you needed their constant stream of funded studies to justify eating real quality food. You don't. You never did. You just need the confidence to demand minimally processed, high-quality options and the wisdom to see through the expensive scientific noise designed to protect inferior products. The science of meat isn't complicated when you know how to read the funding. So there you have it, my friends. I hope you liked this video. Like it, subscribe to my channel, and we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.